Today is September 1st. This is the Halifax Board of Selectmen meeting, pre-town meeting to go over the warrant, and we were recessed last night for 2 agenda items, and do you want to deal with those now?
Well, if, just to
What do you
start off, as long as we were on that subject of seating, and the reason I talked to Scott this afternoon before the meeting was regards to the sound system, the PA system. I guess right now, just doing the gym, because we have an article, that's the reason why I'm here.
The article's really for here.
What's that?
I hope it, go ahead, sorry.
I talked to Scott this afternoon, and right now I think it's almost $8,000 to set up the sound system for the gym.
With the screens and everything else.
Right.
No, audio.
And we were looking into prices to have our own sound system. And that's why I had some questions with back and forth with Scott, and just kind of thought I'd bring it up in the group here, because the prices that we got were just for the gym. And if we're going to be on a regular basis, if we were going to be using the all-purpose room, doing 80-40, that type of thing down the road, what we're going to do is spend all the money for a sound system that doesn't include the all-purpose room. It's only the gym. So I didn't know how everybody felt too, in the same breath, that if we're going to be using the 2 rooms like on a regular basis now, if this is going to be the norm as far as social distancing and that type of thing, it might behoove us to look at a price to do both rooms. And that would include, because now I'm sure everybody's seen it, all the wires that are running down the hallway connecting the 2 rooms and whatnot. We could hopefully get a price of putting all that above the ceiling and having it in place, as opposed to, well, what we had in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, we've had, 6 meetings? 6 8s of $48,000. Ouch. I'm just thinking it might be worth looking to do it all in one shot. It's either pay me now or pay me later.
So Bert, I do agree with you, but the article that's
Right.
in this town meeting is only for a PA system for this room, for the great hall.
It's meant to be, doesn't it? Yeah.
We are,
Great hall.
that is one thing
I
that
read
we
that.
have talked about, is
I thought it was for the gym.
outfitting the gym and the all-purpose room together so that in the future, if we have future meetings like that. But I think that is something, because that would be so much money that we would like to do that either during the special or during the annual May town meeting, where it would be a capital expenditure, be paid for out of free cash. But for this town meeting, we're trying to spend as little as possible because we don't have free cash available. Really, the only monies we have available are raise and appropriate or articles that are being closed out. And I don't have that much money being closed
So
out.
the article with the dollar amount is just for the great room that we wouldn't be using.
This great hall
I-
that's being used for selectmen meetings all the time.
Only.
ZBA,
No.
planning, other boards and commissions are meeting here, and we are getting, we have problems even hearing ourselves in this room,
I know,
depending on who's
it's-
speaking.
See, I thought it was just me.
Not just you, they're all the meetings.
But Bert, you're right. I mean, the thing is, if we're going to do something on a permanent basis that will connect those 2 rooms, it won't be just sound. It will be
Sound,
screens
video.
and
That's-
visual
yeah.
also.
And if we're going to do that, I think we should tie in the school and Steve Pello with that, so that if they're going to put on programs,
100%.
they can
Absolutely.
use the same system that we're using for that.
He would probably be a great contact too, because he would know what we would need, I bet.
Yeah, it would, but it's definitely going to take individuals to run that system, just like we're paying, because we're not just paying for the equipment, we're paying for those guys to be there to make sure
Right.
everything's
Yeah.
set up. So we would need support like that as well.
Was it just over $8,000 a night?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, the 8 seems to be higher than it was last year.
We added a second set of monitors.
Right.
So with that second set of monitors, we'll be able to do the presentation that Chief Shaves wants to do for moving forward, and anybody else. We'll be able to put the motions up so people can just see them as well as hear them in the meeting.
So I guess the communication is mostly my fault. I thought we were looking for a PA system, kind of be a Swiss Army knife, that could kind of do everything all at once. So it was the idea was it was portable to the fact that we could bring it over there, plug into the wall outlets. That went down to the AP room, plug in speakers down there. You get sound on both ends. You could unplug it, bring it over here, bring the speakers and all the cables over here, use it here outside of whatever. So that was my miscommunication.
Well, I think we need something on
Good
both
option.
ends.
Good to have that option too and look at the different prices though. Because instead of having to pay for all the different rooms, if we can do like you said and move it around, that's not a horrible idea if it's going to be a different cost.
So they happen to be putting in a system that we would put in the school, just for background. They're putting in that exact system at Silver Lake as we speak, east-west. So it's apples to apples, and it's $30,000.
So that is something that I'd like to see as a capital article come up, all right? For next year, for FY23.
Yep. And maybe if we're going to do a separate one for here, we don't need to be portable, so maybe we can reduce that a little bit.
That would be good. Because like Charlie was saying, we're looking for something that has 8 microphones so that it can accommodate the selectmen table. Charlie have microphones for the audience, and then if it's planning, they have 5 members, so you can figure it a little differently. But what we're looking for is like 8 microphones. That would be able to also connect into Area 58 so that it would record well, but also so that people in the audience here can hear. So
All right, so
that's all.
interchange the two.
No.
approaches.
No, because if we
We
don't,
have to talk about it. It's one of the articles here. So
well, also, if we don't
just
talk about the logistics for the meeting tonight, then what are we gonna talk about?
Right.
All right,
Right.
Ooh, sorry.
No problem. So we had the 2 issues from last night.
But Charlie said that we can reschedule those without having to be in meeting because Troy's not here,
Right.
correct? Right.
One of them you can. The other one we're gonna.
Obviously, one of them for the forum, I just needed, when Troy's ready to be able to give me some dates, and then I coordinate with Ashley, and we get a date and time set up. I can do that off meeting. The vote on the document request is something that has to be done at a meeting, but I can put it on the agenda for the 8th.
Okay. We also have to have them, Ashley and Troy, tell us when they're available for wage and personnel, because Finance Committee sent me a list of dates that they're available as well, so we need to try to coordinate that
Okay,
list as well. That can be offline.
Okay, yeah. So, are people ready to start off with the warrant, or are there any other logistical issues that need to be addressed for the meeting? I mean, we're doing this, we're aiming for that 6-foot distance. We're saying mass because we're in a school building.
So on that note, the requirements of DESI are that the kids can sit within 3 feet of each other. So I don't know if we have to be, if everyone's masked, they don't have to be 6 feet according to the new guidance. And as long as everyone's not exposed for more than 15 minutes without a mask, then you're not considered a close contact. So all the rules that we had for last year completely changed at the school.
It's going to be the procedure if we have people who refuse to wear masks.
So that's probably a logistical question that should be talked about now.
Yeah.
They go to the APR.
They go in.
They go to the APR because we can set chairs at 3 feet in the gym.
It doesn't matter because the all-purpose room is in the school. So if it's in the school, they must wear a mask.
So I guess the question, Paul's gonna come up. We have Joe or Mary walk in, we have masks available. They say, nope, not wearing them. Where do we go from there? I mean, in the sense of really, there's only gonna be 2 things. One is, we seat them anyhow, and everybody says.
You have to
"Ooh,
seat
ooh,
them. That overrides density because it's federal law.
Okay.
It's a right to vote.
Mhm.
So I like Scott's idea then.
Federal voting acts.
Oh, we gotta make sure too, we have masks
Yeah,
available
just-
there.
Yeah,
So if they come in and they refuse to wear masks,
they go to the all
they go to the all-purpose.
But
I don't know that you can do that
Yeah.
either.
Because if Joe and Mary come in, they're in the same household, they want to sit together, and Joe says, I'm not wearing a mask, are we saying to Mary, you've got to go over there too?
Yes.
So the gym is, so I guess my idea is that the school's gonna have to be cleaned, right? So if you're going to send the person that's not wearing a mask throughout the whole school, I'd rather keep those people in the gym.
Yeah, we're gonna have less people who don't wanna wear a mask than not.
Right, but the way it's set up, the check-in is in the gym. So then you've gotta go the whole length of the school, so if there is any, and if it's airborne, it's what we've been told still.
Yeah.
So if we
They don't
send
have to
them
clean the whole
in,
hallway though.
well, they're gonna have to.
They would either way.
But
Because the people setting up beforehand might not be wearing masks.
I think you're better off to keep the all-purpose room as an area where unmasked people
So the
are
gym,
not the first choice.
so the gym then will be 100% masked.
No, I think.
No, Gordon's saying the opposite, but it's not gonna
I'm saying the
work that way.
all-purpose room should be 100% masked.
Oh, I thought it was just,
The idea is
Because it's the,
fewer
Well, then are
places.
you guys gonna be in the all-purpose room, or we just put the extra people over in the gym?
Right.
Well, why can't they check in at the gym and then go outside and around to the external
You can do
door?
that.
Well, then when you're doing that, that's the problem with that is other people might come in, or they might not go in. So I do understand that. But, I mean, I'd rather
I'd rather
ask
fog the
Scott
hallway.
to fog the hallway after the meeting than put the unmasked people in the gym.
And it's airborne for how long?
Because you have a lot of people who, you have to look at the majority of the people are going to wear the masks. And we have a strong elderly community. I mean, some of them might not want to wear masks too, but I mean, it's my opinion, and I'm only speaking from my opinion, that we shouldn't be saying that now we're going to put the unmasked people in the gym and they have to mix with all the other people who are masked. And
I would think if people don't feel comfortable with unmasked people, you would put them in the all-purpose room. If there's people that don't want to be around somebody that's not masked, I would think logistically, it's better off to keep them at that end of the building.
So we punish the people who are doing what we asked them to do by
Right,
having them not
that's
be
how I
able to
feel.
hear.
I don't know if asking them to walk down the hall is punishment, but
No, because a lot of them might not be able to
because you're
hear and
taking them out of
see.
the all-purpose room, like myself, what if, and I'm not saying I am, but what if I felt uncomfortable with unmasked people? Now, I'm always, I'm an integral part of the town meeting, I'm always at the
At the
front,
gym,
in the gym, there to help people with motions or make sure the money's being passed, right? Then I go in the all-purpose room?
Or do we put a selectman in the all-purpose room? You know what I mean? It just,
I don't think that we have any control over where people, I don't think you can tell people that they have to go to a different room if they're wearing a
Can you,
mask or if
Paul?
they're not.
Yes, you can segregate your people without masks into a separate area, separate from those that are masked.
So,
That's already been argued and disputed and resolved last year.
So we could split the gym and say unmasked on one side, masked on the other.
if it wasn't airborne, yes.
Yeah.
Well, then-
But I do think that we should be able to say, if you don't want to wear a mask, go to the all-purpose room.
But otherwise, we're gonna have everyone sitting there fighting. How many police details do we have on?
I only got one, but it sounded like it might need two.
Well, the two rooms I would recommend,
So I would think we should have two.
setting aside even the mask, unmasked, and
and do you have an assistant moderator?
no, I don't.
So that's the other thing we need. We
Come
need
up with
to
some.
assess it, yeah.
Scott's here.
legally, I don't think Scott can do that.
I just want to see him squirm, that's all.
Well, he does that a lot.
Thanks, Bert. No, it's
Well,
not.
since you're here, how do you feel about being assistant moderator? You're already in the meeting.
Well, he's gonna be in the finance.
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah,
find
of course.
it, so, yeah.
All right.
The other thing, just, if we go over 3 feet, you actually will have probably just about everybody in the gym, because I don't have an exact square footage, but my memory says that at 3 feet, because the geometry of 3 is 9 feet per person, 9 square feet per person versus 36. We were saying something about 40 for the all-purpose room at 80. We're not gonna have any problem fitting anybody in the gym who isn't wearing a mask,
At
basically.
3 feet.
Yeah, at 3 feet.
So that then does complicate things, because now you might have 3 people in the all-purpose room.
Yes. So that they will, again, make a choice about, oh, no, I don't want to wear a mask. Fine, you're sitting in Porta, and
Yeah.
I would say there's probably gonna be more than 3 people that show up and don't want to wear masks.
I think it's a difference between don't want to and won't.
I think that's probably the same people at this point.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have enough
Can I
to.
just ask a question? So,
Sure.
are the police able to tell them to put the mask on?
No.
that's, no,
So
policy.
what is the purpose of having 2 police details at a meeting that we probably
Well-
will not?
Well,
Because it's not mandated.
Well, simply that.
People are gonna get aggravated and.
In terms of, telling people, yes, you've got to go down that corridor to that room. And then second, says simply normal control. You got 2 meeting spaces, you probably want to have 2 officers.
Okay, so that's what we did last time?
Well, last time we had Bert there, and he saw us.
That
And he had a perfect read on anybody out there.
But if you have 2 doors that people coming,
No, I get that. Well,
Yeah.
I don't really want 2 doors to be open because then I won't know if people checked in or not.
Right, well, that's the whole point, is that they go down the corridor, they check into the gym, they go through the gym, down the corridor to the all-purpose room. I mean, yeah, somebody, obviously, and that's another reason, so if there's a police officer there, that person's making sure there's control over the room, in that somebody isn't letting anyone else from the outside just walk into the all-purpose room by the outside doors.
When people check in, don't they get a voting card or something?
no.
Well, we'll get red and green placards. We have yes and no voting now with green, red and green. We changed it because we stopped having people yelling. It wasn't good practice with COVID, for one thing. And also, it just got really stupid as to how loud people want to be yelled as if it meant something. But so they'll get that. I mean, obviously, your point's good in that if someone comes in the back door of the all-purpose room and doesn't have a green or red card, they're not going to be able to vote. Well, they are over 18. 18 and over, sure.
I don't know. I still think it's,
Susan makes a good point, though. There is a very good chance we're not gonna hit quorum with these articles on a Wednesday after a holiday.
I think Kathy does.
Then,
Susan started it.
make more phone calls this weekend.
Yeah.
Tell people they have to come.
there's an open house on Thursday, so we're not doing it on Thursday. Friday is Friday, we're never going to get a quorum on Friday. So the next possible day would be Monday, which still would work with setting the tax rate, because we'll have the tax classification in on Tuesday, and then Holly and Cindy will be sending everything on Wednesday, assuming we're done. I went through the articles. Obviously, there's stuff we want to get done, but if we set the tax rate on the following week anyway, without having a town meeting, we could do it. The worst problem is going to be in May, is that we'll still need $130,000 for Silver Lake. We'll have to take out free cash, and that means $130 less that's going to be available for stabilization. For any capital budget items. Everything else, yeah, we'd like to get all the work done along with what I'm hoping is the mixed unit contract. And it'd be disappointing if we did it, but we want to push forward and get the tax rates out and get the bills out. So if they don't get quorum on Wednesday, they'll get quorum on Monday. I'm not quite sure when they're going to get quorum. I mean, I don't know. Do you have any idea of well, let's put it this way. Does anybody have any idea of how we would get quorum if we don't get quorum Wednesday or Monday?
where the masks became a very big deal.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
We had the meeting up here.
It's what?
They moved the meeting.
We had the meeting in this room because some of the public refused to put on masks.
But then you also ended up with some people leaving the meeting because they were uncomfortable with people who didn't.
So
wear masks.
we had a member of the school committee who left the meeting to go connect by Zoom to the link that I set up so she could participate. So there's a requirement to wear a mask at the school, and our school administrators felt that they were putting their license at risk by participating in a meeting where it was known that the mask policy was being violated. So they said if the meeting was held there and the public refused to put on masks, they would leave. And we need our administrators in the room to have the meeting. So then we came over here.
So you understand, town by town, everybody's adopting lockdowns. And it's gonna have to come to this town sooner or later. Your Board of Health should be, at this point, seriously considering.
But the last
That's
week,
why I'm wearing masks came from the
the
town.
last we talked to Board of Health at our meeting, 2 weeks ago, they were strongly encouraging it, but it was personal choice. We were not going to re-mandate it in the town.
And speaking with the health agent today, he said he strongly recommends that people wear masks, but he said that the state's taken away his authority to enforce it as a
Yes, and no, the Board of Health has the authority to issue these regulations. So it just came from Canton, where the Board of Health had this debate and said, let's just issue a recommendation. And unanimously, they overrode that. They put in a whole page of things from, you have to wear a mask. If you leave your house, you're wearing a mask. Anywhere you go, in the town, you have to wear, that's why I'm wearing a mask, because I just came from there. Anywhere in the town. And they're not as bad off as a lot of other towns. So they're up in Norfolk County, but Plymouth County is targeted as a county that's in trouble.
Well, all the counties are, everybody is at high transmission at this point.
That's why I say your Board of Health sooner or later is going to have to do something.
Well, then
I don't know the answer. If we go to 3 feet and we could fit 100 people into the gymnasium, then what do you do about the masks?
We still have the all-purpose room open, so we tell anybody who doesn't want to wear a mask, they go to the all-purpose room. I'm not going to force anybody,
Who
but
was
they're
telling them that?
one of our police details.
our town clerk.
Asking for a friend. So you want me to say to people that if they don't want to wear their mask, they need to go into the all-purpose?
I think that's why we
Just
need to
be-
make sure we have the police details with you.
I'm not afraid, I'm just saying that is what you guys want me to do.
Yeah, or we put a sign up.
Yeah, put a sign up to see.
Put a sign up when they check
Signage
in.
saying, no, because we don't want to act as an option.
Well, it is an option.
It is an
If
option.
you're bringing that wear a mask, you're welcome to attend the town meeting, but you'll be in the all-purpose room, period.
Okay.
And,
I would print it out.
I'll talk to John tomorrow, give him a heads up that that's where we're going.
He's already.
Maybe
I'm
something
already-
on the town website too, make sure.
So I guess, Scott, are you gonna be able to fog it that night?
No choice.
Okay.
That's the thing. So,
I mean, you would have had to fog it regardless, right?
so thinking backwards, is there, now I don't know if there is a reason or not, but is there a reason we can't hold this 1 week earlier right before school starts, so we don't have this?
School started today.
Right, so a week before school starts.
Because we would have people on vacation and then I would get yelled at that I was at a town meeting with people on vacation.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we've tried having town meeting before school starts and we didn't get quorum.
It
It's
just,
really a catch-22. It's very difficult to get quorum,
Yeah.
which is only 100 people, but still, it's, no matter when you do it, it's difficult.
Short of, we've had a couple during the summer, but we had stuff on there that drove quorum.
That's why I was sort of hoping that now would drive to Portable. Or let's tell all the high school parents, get in there. You want your money for the high school?
Well, they get their money no matter what.
I know. You don't have to tell me that.
Are we not fogging the school anyways?
I don't deal with the school on that.
Are we not fogging the school anyways, Gordon?
I have not asked that question, but I know.
Probably a good question to ask before we started school today.
So we don't have the extra custodian on right now, so that's not taking place because the town offered it. We offered to use COVID money or ARPA money, but it hasn't been, there has not been a hire for that position, and I'm not sure if they put the position out. But the cleaning and all of the requirements have completely changed from what they were in the spring. It is now, if it's, you know, you and I could sit next to each other, share food at lunch, basically, and as long as you're not there for 15 minutes, you're not considered a close contact.
Yeah, I got a complaint about that today, that the kids didn't have enough time at lunch, so did we cut the lunchtime down?
I don't know.
That's for another meeting, but I think there's a lot of stuff that got missed there before school started, personally, with 2 kids in the building. But we're still gonna mask them up and do all these things and not clean, not fog, not do any of that.
I know that they're following the DESI guidelines and that they have changed just like everything else, and possibly they will change again.
They'll change when it's too late and we have a half of elementary school that's quarantined.
I will reach out to the superintendent and ask about
Okay.
Do you guys want to start on these?
Let's start.
Wait, so did we agree that we would put people in the all-purpose room without masks? That's what
Yep,
we're
and
at?
I'll put up, like, some signage up saying that if you're not wearing a mask, to go to the office.
Okay, perfect.
And what spacing, what
If you're
spacing?
not wearing a
We're
mask.
gonna do 3 feet.
Are we 3 feet for spacing?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say 3 feet in the gym and 6 feet in the all-purpose room if they're not wearing a mask.
Are you also going to try to divide the gym too, or not?
No,
Okay.
just the usual visitors gallery section.
Why isn't that in the all-purpose room?
I mean, as far
Because
as
we have
masks,
people
masks.
like the chiefs who are
Oh,
visitors gallery.
okay.
Or Scott, for instance, or Bill Lindsay, he does it, I don't know if it's him or the water commissioners are actually present the article for the truck.
Okay, okay.
So you're saying 3 feet apart, just want to make sure. 3 feet apart in the gym and 6 feet apart in the all-purpose room.
Right,
I would,
right, because they won't be masked.
Okay.
Should we make those people move every 15? No, I'm
No.
just kidding.
Every 15
Every 15 minutes, can you guys rotate? Can we
Everybody
rotate?
take 3 steps to the right.
Musical chairs.
Yeah, there you go.
okay, so Article 1 is
Passover,
Patrons.
Are we gonna do one big Passover, Charlie?
we can, something we could talk to Paul about. Paul, we've done what's, I guess sometimes in other communities are called a consent agenda, in that the articles are gonna be drawn by lottery, so there are no, even though we have numbers, it's not in that order. But what we can do and have done is do a consent agenda which says, well, one vote on all the articles that we're gonna pass over. I mean, sometimes we have a vote on articles that everybody's fine with and will approve it all once, but for Wednesday night purpose, probably just the simplest thing is get the 10 or so articles that we plan on passing over and get them out of the way in one bunch.
In one motion.
You know, I can send you what we've done before.
Yeah, that's fine. You have a bylaw that allows the moderator to put things in order with things need to be articles that are connected.
I believe.
All those consent things are connected because they're consent.
Okay.
So there may be different subject matters, but they fit within.
Oh, that was my next question. If we can pass over just the bargaining agreement ones, or do you have to break it down by, okay, all the police, all the fire?
No, no, you can have
Yeah.
one pass over every article.
Yeah.
Even if they're not
Passover.
related.
Yes.
So Passover 1. 2, I got word late this afternoon that we've reached an actual tentative agreement. I need to write up the contract I need to send copies to the finance committee, I need to send copies to the union, obviously copies to the board of selectmen. And so my hope is by the end of tomorrow, I'll have a yes or no, or towards ratification. At the
Do we have
same
an-
time, sorry,
Do we have an estimated cost?
that's what I need.
Until I get the contract.
And also I need to
Come on,
confirm with
Sandy.
them which certifications that I've got right now.
Okay.
So that's the only one that, of this first 7, and we'll go over one by one, but that's the only one of the first 7 that we may not pass over. 3 is firefighters for 22, that's passed over. 4 is highway for 22, pass over. 5 is sergeants, pass over for 22. 6 is patrol officers again, but that's for fiscal 22, pass over. 7 is a mixed unit for 22, we pass over. 8,
And he's gonna do that all in one motion?
the idea is we had probably a couple more articles, for budgets such as this one, number 8. Well, the logistical problem with 8 is that it's a zoning bylaw change. The planning board has not held a public hearing nor made a recommendation on 8. It won't do so by September 8th, so we can't vote on it at the town meeting.
Yeah, my question on that was, you have another zoning article
Yes.
that you're planning to act on.
Yes,
So the planning board decided they were gonna act on the citizen article, but not on
well, both of them were citizens petition articles. One came into them earlier, several weeks before the other one.
the, okay, so they acted on the one that came in earlier. There's a rational basis for discriminating between one article and the other,
Yes, it's just in terms of timing.
in terms of time.
Okay. So the deadline to submit articles for the town meeting warrant was August 10th. Both of the articles came in by August 10th, but one of them came back in, I think, early mid-July. They had gotten signatures. They were even, what they were trying to do was get to 200 and force a special town meeting. They didn't get it. They had 192, and they said, fine, we're good. You're gonna have a special town meeting in September because of Silver Lake. Fine, we'll get on the agenda for that. Done. Thank you. And so they had their article in early. They got the planning board to hold a hearing, and we'll get to that article. But number 8 would be on the consent.
So, and Paul, on this one, Charlie and I had talked about whether or not that the part that they're actually changing, if it's an actual zoning, because it's limiting the number of retailers to 20%, the number of licenses issued, basically, is that an actual zoning, or is that,
Yes,
okay,
because it's the operative statute authorizes the town to adopt zoning restricting. So it's been labeled by the state law to be zoning.
okay.
And it's in the zoning bylaw already.
And that's a 2/3 vote on these zoning changes?
Yes,
Well,
2/3.
But not this time for that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 9 should be fairly simple. It's going to be appropriation for the water department for a new truck.
Right, so I can have a question for Paul on this one, on the motion, because,
Which article?
Number
it's
9.
number 9. It's coming from water revenue, so I think it should be moved that the town appropriate from water revenue $26,608. I have to say $609. I just can't do pennies. So I move that the town vote to appropriate from water revenue the sum of $26,609 to purchase and equip a new truck for the water superintendent. Because it's not a transfer of funds. I just want to make sure that we're wording it correctly. Because water revenue is like raise and appropriate.
Yes, no, but the way it's written now is the funds are already there.
They're not. This is water revenue is what we get during that year.
Then what you just said is the correct way to do it. You don't transfer funds that you don't have.
Right.
You have to have the funds to transfer it. So the word transfer implies there's an account, there's $26,000 in it, we don't know what to do with it, so we're gonna use it for this purpose, so we're gonna take it out of that account. But if you haven't got it, and it's gonna arise during the course of the fiscal year, as revenues, then it's an appropriation.
All right, very good, thank you.
And then just a question on the amount. Are they doing a trade-in for this as well?
I'll find out.
Because that seems
Seems really low.
seems like a third of the cost of a new truck.
Well, when if they're trading something in, it's not exactly worth too much.
I believe they're getting it off the bid list, is not
But,
this.
well, I think so.
But I'm
And
not
who's
sure.
gonna read that motion?
I don't know yet. I sent a note to Bill and Kathy earlier today
Okay.
to ask for make, model, year for the new truck specification sheet, if they're getting it from the state bid list, which bid list they're getting it from.
No, she's asking who's gonna motion it.
And, right, and also that question.
So why not add that to the motion? And to authorize the trading in of the existing vehicle, something like that.
If that's what they're doing.
Yeah, because that answers a lot of questions. Somebody's gonna ask that question. It's like an obvious question.
100%.
It cuts down the town meeting if you have it right there and see, oh yeah. And it's just an authorization to transfer, so, to trade in. So if they can't make a deal, and nobody wants to take it.
Well, we'll sell it.
It's not stuck.
Okay.
But if we're going to take on trade, it's written like that in this, do you have to stop trading it, or can you start with
Well, it says authorized, it doesn't
He's
mean
just
it
authorized,
requires
so
it.
it doesn't.
something?
They just say they're going to authorize the trading in of the existing vehicle. That just authorizes it. You're free to junk it if you can't get it.
So 10 is on Aldana Road. This is part of the land swap between the state and the town. We're giving up what's parcel B, which is acreage off of Aldana Road on the south side of Aldana Road that abuts some of the state property in Peterson Swamp there. We're getting a very small sliver along the southern edge of Aldana Road in return. And I know that council with Paul has been working with Fish and Game and DCAM's council on the deed work. The deed work is not part of this. This is authorizing the board to vet.
Yeah, they want us to do a certification, but on the motion itself, I want to say that I'd like to see a 2/3 vote on this thing. There are motions like this that read like this, that a majority vote is fine. The problem I'm having is I don't want to spend the time researching all the things that have happened to get us to this point, any one of which could trigger a 2/3 requirement. So rather than trying to figure out, are you dealing with eminent domain land, or it's purchase, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Rather than doing that, if we can get a 2/3 vote. It should get a unanimous vote on this.
Probably
You
will.
would think.
Yeah.
You'll never get any on that.
Never.
Stranger things have happened,
There will be somebody in the back of the room who will say no, simply so that they can be, well, they can't say no, they'll raise the red card. But, there'll be
Because
something,
they can.
yes.
It's just safer the 2/3. If we don't get the 2/3 and we get a majority, then let's say it passed and I'll figure out a way to work around all the other requirements and try and say,
Well,
What would the requirement be to get a 2/3? That you're thinking that it should be, or you just want to get a 2/3 just to make
yeah,
it?
usually if there's been eminent domain in the past and there was an appropriation for eminent domain, or if there's been a transfer of the land in the past to the Board of Selectmen for this purpose, those all required.
well, for instance, we got 50, the town.
We got the land from, we bought out Plymouth County. The town bought out Plymouth County to get that parcel, because we were both 50% owners. It's all right, so Bert just asked for a 2/3.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna get that, unless everybody on Dana Road shows up and says, no, we don't want it to ever think about creating a speedway there.
Who's
Yeah.
gonna motion that?
That's a crazy statement.
So is that me?
Yeah.
Okay.
11 is the PA system. I sent a note to Kevin and to Scott and also Caesar. I just gave as an example some sound systems from musicians' friends, just to say, this is how dumb, I don't mean dumb as in stupid, but dumb as in I don't need bells and whistles type of thing. I need a simple system that we can put in here, someone hits the on switch, done, we don't have to do a board or anything like that. So in the next couple of days, we'll have to put in an amount and figure out which one to get.
And figure out where the money is coming from.
Well, I've just been, that was the next question, is that gonna be raised
So,
and
no, that won't be a raise and appropriate if I have anything to do with it. We would probably take money from a previous article, a previous town meeting article, and I will have the date of the town, the article number, the date of the town meeting, and what that article is.
So this may be legally, this motion may be legally required to be adopted under the Americans with Disability Act. I mean, the point of these PA systems is that sometimes you have people who have various diseases that make it difficult for them to be heard,
Right.
like Parkinson's disease, things like that. And if that's the case, you must do this under federal law. You must spend the money. It's not an optional thing. You've got to provide this. It's part of your accommodations with people with disabilities.
I don't have that. So who will be presenting this article?
If you give me the numbers, I will.
Or I can do it. We can,
Ashley, it is.
we'll alternate.
No, Cindy, when you say from a previous,
Town meeting
a
article.
new
So-
town meeting,
so-
does it have to be specific for the Great Hall, or
The,
it went, I mean?
no, I can use any article that we're turning money that.
Let's say there's a
we have
police
extra money
car.
at the end.
There's $1,500 in the old police car article that we never spent. Police cars were purchased, we've got $1,500 left.
You do that? Yes?
You can transfer the money from
Yeah.
unspent article.
And do this all the time with articles similar to this, and you'll see a couple of others that I'm doing. We're taking from one old article that they don't need the money in anymore. We're putting it into a new article. It's a new use, it's being voted at town meeting, so
So it's a transfer then?
it's like it's a transfer from available sums, only I have to tell you exactly where it's coming from.
Right, so we might say in the motion, transfer from Article 52 of the town meeting of May 10th, 2019, police cars, the sum of $1,500.
Okay.
But because you don't know the dollar amount, you don't know where it's coming from yet.
Right.
We're gonna have that soon, though, right?
Yes.
I'll get on it tomorrow.
Yeah, you gotta have it in the
Can we-
motion.
All that.
Because it's gonna be questioned.
Scott, can we make sure, or Caesar, whoever's doing it, the pricing, that we have more than one pricing, more than one option, more than one bid?
Sure.
That they're gonna ask. That's the first question they're gonna ask you. Did you get more than one bid, or are we just
Well,
going?
at this amount, we don't need more than one bid. I mean, we can present various options,
But
but,
we don't know the amount yet, right?
well, we do and we don't, in the sense of the samples that I sent to Scott and Kevin Shanley from East West range from like $500 to $1,500. Anything, I can't remember if it's 10 now, but anything under 10 is sound business practices. It doesn't require formal
So we don't
quotes
need-
or bidding or anything like that.
Just because it's some business practices doesn't mean that someone's not going to
No, I
ask.
understand,
So it certainly
but
helps
if someone
if-
says, did you get the required 3 bids, there is not a requirement for 3 bids.
I'll get a couple of different ones, just so we have something.
We'll be
Even
able,
2 is better than 1, to say to people, this is the scale we were on, and this is how we got our number.
here's a make and model, here's a price. It has the 8 channels or whatever else.
And this was the best price I could get.
Right.
Okay.
So one of my questions on that, since we're talking specifically town hall, Great Hall, should we look at the ball mics where people that tend to lean back away from mics and talk and don't get heard, you know, so they can sing loudly?
Not a bad idea.
Because a lot of people tend to do that, as the meetings go on, you lean away from the mic.
You're right.
And,
I start my meetings up here, and then after like hour 2, I'm like,
right,
like you got up.
so.
Yeah,
and-
the short answer is yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other item that I don't know that we need to do it in this, but if we're gonna continue to do the Zoom thing, we need a better system than what I've been doing with my personal capture card and hooking up to the projector screen. Cause,
Those that we've been doing.
yeah,
Last
so,
time I was there, you didn't have a projector screen, so.
so the way I did it, Monday night with the school committee was I was sitting here hooked up to the mixer, getting the HDMI output out of Area 58's camera, putting my Zoom on full screen, putting that up as the projector, but only the people on this side could see the screen. And then the way I did it for that Union 31 meeting is I didn't move the screen enough so you couldn't see me, you could see my feet behind the screen.
So
Pay no attention to the other.
All right.
What's-
Pay no attention.
if that would be too costly to get the projector part, at this point, we're connecting it with Zoom, something that can be adapted into.
Something that has another, at least 2 outputs.
Yeah.
Charlie, can you also add in the motion the verbiage that Paul was talking about our town legally needing to have this?
I can, yeah, basically is per requirements of the Americans
Yes,
with Disabilities
exactly.
Act or something.
Perfect, because again, that will move that article quickly and people will hear that and realize it's just something we have to do. All right, so I'm motioning now.
12. I'm putting in 1,000 as a nominal amount, just simply so whether it's getting a replacement tire or we get an inspection sticker or something, that we have money set aside. That's it. And we'll wait for Sandy to provide a source.
Okay. Gordon, you want that one?
Me, I guess, or not.
Again, you don't need an exact dollar amount.
Oh, I put in 1,000.
You
Yeah.
gotta put it
Where it's coming from.
That's an exact dollar amount. In other words, you can appropriate, town meeting has to appropriate an exact dollar amount, but the exact dollar amount doesn't have to be what you spend. It's an authorization to spend. So if you only spend 500, 800, or you don't spend it at all, you're fine. So it doesn't have to match
Okay,
what the store says. It just has to be a fixed number here.
all right. Sorry, new
You
guy.
can't
New
spend
guy.
You already did a town meeting, you really can't say no anymore.
Doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
Damn it.
13 is the required article, and the state wants to spend the Uber Lyft money.
Me.
You want to do that one?
So again, on that one, rather than transfer from funds, can we just say appropriate this off?
No, we're getting
Because
that.
it's a raise and I know, but the account that it's in is called raise and appropriate,
Which-
so.
You on 12 again?
13.
13.
Aren't we getting that money?
Yeah.
We're not spending it, we get it.
We have to appropriate it so we can spend.
Okay, so I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $271.10 distributed from Commonwealth, yada, yada.
Does that make sense? Paul,
That's fine.
appropriate? Because then I can spend it right out of the fund, so highway can spend the money, that's
Say
the
that one more
biggest.
time. What did you say? Ed?
So I'll give you the updated motion, but it's going to say I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $271.
Okay, now I understand what you.
Okay,
So generally, most of my towns don't like the waste paper, so they tell me to shorten these motions. So if I had my druthers on all of these motions, instead of saying, I move that the town vote to transfer, you would say, I move that the sum of $271.16 be appropriated from, then you list the distributions from the Commonwealth Transportation Fund. So if you take out all those words, see if the town will vote to,
Well, that's the article.
right, but you don't need it in the motion.
Well, I understand it's not in the motion.
No, it is.
I'm just
He's
talking,
saying take the part out, I move that the town vote to transfer. Take that out of the motion. And you would just
So
say,
just say-
I move to appropriate the sum of $271.
yeah, it's just faster. It's a question of paper.
All right, I will.
A lot of towns printed these motions out, but they don't want 100-page motions. We try to make them to show the profit.
When we get to the 100-page motions, usually what we say is, I move Article X is printed in the warrant.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or we make the new selectmen and read them.
So funny, Gordon. I think the old selection
So-
should do that.
The police chief will be presenting this, but one of those, I'll make the motion.
So Paul,
do it.
I understand when you and John have gone back and forth, not in sense of being on opposite sides, but working on what's the best way for the town, if it wants to withdraw from civil service, to do so. I know that, and that's based on what I saw from the two of you, I had that very simple motion. I know the Finance Committee, when they talked about this on Monday, asked if something more could be presented in the motion, because given, if we're limited to that, and there's the article there, the way that the article is put, there's no information for the voters to say, well, what are you doing instead? I mean,
So yeah, you could say, I move that the acceptance of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 31, Section 18, parentheses, civil service.
Right, civil service should be in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
Be
who's gonna
rescinded
know what Mass General Law,
For
Chapter
the
31?
police department, is that?
You do.
be rescinded for the police department. I mean, right now, the chief is outside of civil service, it's simply patrol officers and sergeants, but not the specials.
So you could say the uniform,
No, because the special officers are uniform officers also.
or so just say that the patrolmen and sergeants of the police department and civil service. So you add in this citation here, statutory citation, is to civil service. So you add to it for the police department, sergeants and patrolmen. Yeah.
But I think one of the things the Finance Committee was saying was, there's nothing in the motion that says, what are we doing having rescinded it? Because people are gonna ask, well, then how are you hiring people? How are you promoting people? How are you disciplining people? The fact that we're gonna have to negotiate this, in order to implement it, we're gonna have to negotiate this with the patrol officers and sergeants anyway. Why aren't we saying something along those lines also? I'm not saying, well, I know what should be or shouldn't be. It's simply the Finance Committee mentioned these things in terms of trying to convey a better sense to the townspeople about what we actually were trying to do.
So that's why I explained before, the state legislature passed this law, police reform, and they have all these special commissions, and I'm on the special commissions, and one of the issues is how do we regulate hiring for communities that opt out of civil service? And my position on that, representing all the cities and towns in the Commonwealth, is that it should remain unregulated. But there's considerable pressure that all needs to be regulated. That's because it's perceived that civil service is a pathway for minorities to get into white departments. Because of all of that state politics stuff, it would not be a good idea for you to say how we're going to do the hiring after civil service. Please leave that alone. If you proceed to get into that, then that's going to get cited, it's going to get picked up, and then it's going to be cited. See, we need to regulate it because Halifax, on its own, decided it needed to regulate it or say something about it. And here we are, we're letting all these other communities run amok and do whatever they want to do.
But there are other communities adjacent to us that are not civil service also, so we could cite that as examples.
Yes.
Well, that could be in
I
the
would
debate,
stick with
but
stuff
not-
like
Yeah, well, it comes out, it's not in the motion, but out on the floor, you know it's gonna come up.
So please, I'm happy to meet with
So leave it, keep it simple, keep it this way, period.
Well, I'm going to, when I go through this, I'm going to add pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 4, Section 7, just to provide, there's a specific statute on civil service that says if you opt out to rescind, it only applies to new hires and doesn't affect anybody's existing civil service status. So there's a statute specifically providing for all of that. So I just want to cite that in here, so.
Yeah, section 2, I think, is it specifies that too, if they.
Well, that would have been,
Certain date.
if we had filed the special legislation, section 2 would have mentioned that. We're not filing the special legislation. Under Paul's guidance, what we're simply doing is rescinding the vote that was taken back in 1968.
But it has
for
the
us to
same
go
effect.
into. Yeah.
Oh, that has the same.
Rather than going to the legislature and setting aside all the political problems that Paul's mentioned, simply the mechanics of the state legislature, who knows when they're going to get to this? It may be months, it may be years.
They're not adopting these right now, they just put them on hold for the time being while the special commission figures out what do we want to do with civil service. Civil service is failing for other reasons too. So that's the whole issue of how do we reform civil service. I mean, part of the argument is, okay, civil service is supposed to be an avenue for diversity, but when you ask them for a list and you say like you want women, good luck. You want a Spanish officer because you have a Spanish community, good luck getting anything out of civil service. It takes forever. They don't like doing what they consider racial lists. But that's the whole point. If you're in a community that's all black and you have only white officers, what's wrong with saying, hey, let's have a few black officers so the people that we're policing have somebody they can relate to. You can't, the civil service is too frozen. So we're trying to figure out how to reform civil service at the same time. We got these communities out there who are unregulated. There are all these horror stories. That's why they're white departments, because we don't regulate them and we let them just hire more of their own instead of whatever.
So is this article, Paul, you think premature? Where everything's being discussed and whatnot now, or is it, now's the time to do it?
Yeah, I think now's the time to do it.
Okay.
And this is the way to do it.
So Ashley said you take this one.
No, you already said you would. I just relayed that to Susan. She already typed her name, I saw her. She's quick like that.
Okay. 15, this is Silver Lake. We need to appropriate the necessary amount
Can't motion all.
at the Maytown meeting. So
You're not even on
we're
Silver
coming
Lake.
back and putting the rest of the money into the pot.
I'll motion this one so it passes. If Gordon motions it, it's gonna fail.
I'll let you two figure it out. Sorry. Not getting involved in that score.
Right.
16 is for additional money in the retirement line item for water department. Basically what's happened is that our retirement assessment's been increasing at a faster clip than we've been appropriating money from the water department. So this would bring them up to where they would have the necessary money for their share of the retirement assessment.
And I'll fix the wording on that so it's like the other wording for the water department, because it'll be coming from water revenues.
So appropriate.
Yeah, appropriate from water revenues.
Okay.
I can motion it.
17 is another petition article. This one has been heard by the planning board. They are meeting tomorrow night on the 2nd. I do not know whether they're going to make a recommendation that night. As it turns out, they have to make, under law, they should be making a recommendation within 21 days. Well, the 21st day is September 9th, not September 8th. So technically, if they don't make a recommendation either on September 2nd or that they hold a special meeting, let's say, before the town meeting on September 8th and still don't make a recommendation, then we again have to pass over this article. If it had been 22 days on September 8th, then we could bypass the need for the recommendation. But because under the general laws, as long as 21 days have passed, then you can still vote on a zoning bylaw amendment.
Well, they know they're looking for it, right? I'm sure they'll.
Well, they hold the hearing, you have people on the committee who are aware of the process and need for a recommendation, whether they,
Can you email them, Charlie, and let them know that we?
it's on the agenda, in fact. It's the first thing.
No, I'm saying for them to make the recommendation. Okay. Gordon, this is a good one for you to motion, I think. You have a good reading voice, and that's a lot of words, so.
Paul, quick question too. Should this Article 17 be taken up with Article 8? You know, at the same time, you want to keep it where it's of the same.
You were gonna pass, that was gonna be already passed
Passed
over.
over, because there's no planning board report, so town meeting can't act on it.
So if this, so that's why,
It's illegal to take a vote under Article 8 at all. So they're not related.
Yeah, you can have one without the other, one is not dependent on the other.
I asked the same question.
But if the planning board makes no decision on this.
But we're not
time,
talking
you
about
always
related this time.
adjourn the town meeting to the day after the
Well,
first day.
if we are going to be lucky to get quorum on September 8th. If we get quorum and that's the only thing that's remaining, I mean, it's up
I
to
mean,
the board.
we could move to table the article if they don't have a recommendation, right? And then you pick it up at the next town meeting.
Not really, that doesn't entitle them to the next town meeting. In fact, there's this requirement that if a zoning article is defeated, you can't bring it back for 2 years without the approval of.
So then you would need to pass over it?
Yeah, that would be the simplest thing. And then they can come back with 10 signatures in January, and get it back on the warrant from them.
does that also require a public hearing? 65 days after the thing is?
Yes, the article did, it did. They held a public hearing on August 19th.
Within the
Yes, they have to have a hearing,
So a zoning thing, also, what would that require for a vote?
2/3.
2/3.
But this proposed article, the motion you wrote up, Charlie?
Because I don't know which way the planning board, I don't know which way the proposers want to go. Whether they want to eliminate the buffer zone entirely, or they want to reduce the buffer zone. And maybe, it may have a better sense after tomorrow night.
Right.
And the way the planning board listed it on their agenda for tomorrow, they were mentioning both 14, which is medical marijuana, and 15, which is regular retail. So
Okay, so that's,
originally, I had only written a motion for changing the regs to 15, but now voted so 14 and 15 will be included.
Can I ask another question? On the zoning bylaw change, would the town council give their opinion?
Opinion as to what, usually I don't.
You don't? When I was reading on my reading, it was that the planning board gives a report, some
Yes.
sort of a report, and that sometimes town council would give their opinion. I just wondered if that's something that you do normally. Just
Those are
a new
such-
person question.
Those are often political issues that we're neutral political. We don't.
So for none of the bylaw changes, you wouldn't normally do that?
Well, I see something like this, you're required by the Americans with Disabilities Act. I mean, if there's a clear legal requirement,
Yep.
I would say something. But where it's a policy decision, whether you want, 500 feet of buffer, or you don't want 500 feet of buffer, it's not required by state law to have that buffer.
It might be something that, whether it's a planning board for a zoning bylaw or some department or general bylaw, they might go to Paul and say, we'd like to be able to do X, Y, or Z. Here's some sample language. Is it technically correct? Does it do what we want it to do? And Paul or his staff would be able to provide that technical assistance about the wording so that we don't run into problems. Or for that matter, they might, can you find other examples of this in other communities? There's plenty of advice they can provide.
so on this, I would expect people to ask the Board of Selectmen's opinion. So if we're posted for,
You are.
then I think we should talk about this as a full board that night.
I think Pam's already posted for the 8th. I think I need to bring it up to date because
Okay.
we deal with a couple other things.
Well, that brings up a question, but most of the communities that I represent has not only the recommendations of the FinCom and the recommendations of the planning board, but they all have the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen for every article.
We used to do it that
We used to
way.
do that.
Not anymore,
We haven't in the last probably 3 or 4 years, but,
not anymore.
no, not in the one.
Right.
No, but the moderator would ask, does the Board of
Would
Selectmen?
ask the finance committee recommendation, the board of selectmen recommendation, and then if it was a zoning article, it would go to the planning board recommendation. But we haven't been doing, I think it's a great idea, because I think it's important that the people know.
You're
we
the elected leadership of the town. People want to hear from the finance committee because they're concerned about numbers and so on.
Mhm.
They want to hear from the planning board about how this the zoning change fit in with the rest of the zoning bylaws, but you have the perspective of issues that go beyond just finance and beyond just the planners. You got the whole town, and you're the elected leadership of the town, so I would really urge you to go back to that practice. Have a meeting before the 8th and go through the warrant and vote what you are going
What
to
time are we
recommend and what
posted?
you
You're
don't
posted for
recommend.
6:30, right?
An hour before? Is it too late to move it?
No, I mean.
Should we do
I
6
got-
o'clock? Because I don't see us being able to meet between now and then with the holiday to be able to decide what we're recommending and not. That gives us a half hour to kind of fly through the articles and decide if we're recommending or not.
Unless you got something.
Recorded.
I have, no, that's Wednesday, right? This is a Wednesday meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, soccer is going to be Tuesday coaching, and softball is going to be either Thursday or Friday. So Wednesday, 6 o'clock works for me.
I'll do that.
So Bert, you'll have to remind yourself after every article to ask, 'cause that's what we had done before the moderator, right?
Yep.
If the finance committee recommends, if the board of selectmen recommends, and then if it involves planning, if they recommend. So we'll write little notes for you on
Good idea,
post-it notes.
so we don't get burned.
Well, as long as
Probably
that's,
have a couple anyways, but that's.
if that speaker is turned a little more, we might, everybody on stage might be able to hear.
Yeah, I couldn't hear.
Because
I thought it was just me.
No,
I
it wasn't
mean,
just
even that little speaker that was between you and
I
was useless.
I was turned
Yeah.
to the side to hear that one, so.
I've asked him to add more monitors up on the stage, you guys can hear.
Okay.
You said it would.
No. But I asked.
Yeah, but it's good.
Thank you for trying,
Sounded
A for
good.
effort.
Well, we could all go to an American Sign Language class beforehand. We could have somebody signing us so we know what's being said.
Well, that reminds me to ask the question, do you have any people who need a signer at the meeting? If
We've
there is
never been
anybody-
asked. We had, about 10 years ago, we tried to do someone typing text up on a big screen. And that ended up both being costly and cumbersome. And we never did it after that. But we've had no requests made to the board of selectmen in the years I've been here to have a sign language interpreter there or make any other particular accommodations.
Do you recall, one of the things I asked you was, when I was looking at the booklet, there wasn't any thing mailed to voters that talked to them about stuff like this, but do you ask people what accommodations they need?
I mean, so ask as they come in or out?
So if they feel they can come to the meeting.
Well, it's never, all I can tell you is, in terms of mailing out the warrant, during the time I've been here, we've never had verbiage of that effect. And I know that in terms of, as people are coming in to, sign in saying they're attending town meeting, we've never asked.
Right, but we might have people who aren't showing up because they feel like there's nobody there
That's
to be
right.
able
Well, and I
to
understand
interpret it
that,
for them.
so I don't know what would be the best way of handling
So
that.
you put in the booklet, if you, right up front, I don't have the booklet here.
No, I understand. Well, this is
But
pretty
like
much.
on the front page or the back page, you have a little thing like, if you need, and then you put down, if you're blind, if you're deaf, you don't use those words.
Right.
But if you need,
Sight impaired, hearing impaired.
right, you use the correct words. please let us know and arrangements will be made. You can't do that at town meeting.
Right.
Somebody comes in and says, I'm deaf, I need a signer.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna get a signer in time to
Right.
go forward with the meeting? You need to know that in advance. So when you send out the mailing to the town, you ask people, you want everybody to come. Every voter, no matter what their condition is. And so those who need help, we're required under the Americans with Disabilities Act to make accommodations for them. So if they're deaf, then you need to provide a sign. If they're blind, you need to provide audible. So you've got to have, to
This
get
is
that
something we
information,
should
you have to
have for
ask.
next time.
Yeah, for the next one. We can't do anything this one, but.
Right. But it's actually absolutely something that we should be looking at for the next, for May.
Just as far as logistic wise, we're gonna ask for just for my own benefit, we're gonna ask for the finance committee recommendation, we're gonna ask for the selectmen's recommendation, and then the planning board. Do we need
If it's zoning.
If it's zoning.
planning and zoning?
No.
There's only gonna be one article that you're gonna
Oh, just
ask the
one.
planning board,
Oh, okay.
which is this article, number 17.
Oh, just that one, okay, because I was
Just
gonna
the
say, do
one-
we need another table set up? We
No,
need to-
just the one for planning board, but all the other ones you'll ask for finance and selectmen.
Okay.
Because every zoning article, you're supposed to get a recommendation from the planning board.
Do you actually get a physical report, everything since the thing was submitted to the report, is that?
Yes.
They've never actually done a
A physical
report, a physical report. They give a verbal.
I mean, it will be on the record in their minutes of one of the meetings that they did so. But,
Because it does make reference to a report.
Correct.
but it doesn't say it has to be a written report.
It's the statute that uses the word report.
Yeah.
So the
Oh.
planning board
That's
has
what
to give a
I
report.
figured, yeah,
They're
figured.
reporting what they
Figured.
decided
Yeah.
That's right.
by the, thank you for clarifying.
I mean, they can do, obviously, they can do more than planning board recommends or planning board does not
Right.
recommend. I would suggest to whoever is doing it for the planning board that they explain, A, was there a split vote, was it a unanimous vote? What are the reasons why they're not recommending it, why they're not recommending it? Heck, for that matter, if somebody's in the minority, I'm sure they'd be welcome at some point during the discussion to say, well,
Their reasoning.
you know,
Okay.
So this is gonna have to be read
That's why
and put up on the screen.
maybe you should do it.
well, there's that, there's the other way is that, again, we can have the motion, once I know what the planning board and Mr. Booth want to do, is have the motion on the table. I'm not saying it can't be on the screen, but we can have the motion also on the table.
Yeah, so
And
people can
someone
pick it up.
move, I move, you know,
The salmon colored article.
Paper, the golden rod.
Right. so that someone, we don't have to spend, you don't have to spend all the time.
Yeah, I can.
You can keep flipping the coin.
I think Gordon should just read.
Yeah, all right,
the
cool.
plan
I'll
first.
read it, sure.
Usually that's done by the moderator. He would say, all right, we're now at Article 3. Can I have a motion in the form that's been prepared and passed out? And someone says, so moved. That's all they need to say. And then someone says second. And you're all done. The town clerk has it, so she doesn't have to take a lot of notes.
I like
And
that.
then you,
I'll point out, however, that neither of you have anything to do with this article. This is not your article. You're going to make a recommendation, but there's no necessity for you to read that article.
We have to read the motion, right?
No.
It's not your article.
No, because it's a petition article.
Oh, good, so let's let the resident read it. Oh, you got lucky, Gordon. And that's the only article you would have to ask for the planning board recommendation.
Just
If
17.
Yeah.
they do a recommendation, if not, we're gonna have to
So
motion to pass.
Diane's gonna read that out.
Pardon?
That's Diane who proposed.
Well, it can be anybody can move it.
I'm asking, I just
Can
wonder.
I- You'll find out who's going to make the actual motion. It might be a planning board member, because they're going to meet with Colonel Booth tomorrow. Colonel Booth, that's his first and last name. It's not, some-
It's not one.
it's like, Colonel Sanders, I guess.
I'm hungry, don't talk about chicken.
But somebody, it could be the planning board, it could be her, it could be somebody else, not even on the petition. Normally, you would have the lead person on the petition because they were the first, but it's not necessary. I am gonna contact, after if the planning board's gonna do it, we'll know who it is. If the planning board would say, no, we're gonna have somebody else do it, I'll try and be in contact with that person and say, here's what you're doing.
Yeah.
But still, I would have the moderator, when he gets to Article 17 or any of these articles, say, we're at Article 17, is there a motion?
Yeah.
And then see who shows up.
Right.
If nobody makes a motion, then you take a motion to pass over and go on to something else. Nobody wants to make a motion.
Or we just have to make sure that they know that that's when they're supposed to stand up, because not everybody understands.
Yeah, 'cause that's not how we've done it
So
before.
it's gonna be done.
Normally,
You'll
a
know.
member of the selectmen will make a motion, or the water department, whoever brought the motion forward, and then somebody will second it.
Right.
But where this is a petition article,
Well, he said we should do it for every article,
Yeah, what's that?
all 19.
Most moderators would say, even on articles from the Board of Selectmen, they would say, could I have a motion in the form as, for Article 1 as presented here? And yes, it's gonna be, a select person's gonna say, I so move, but it doesn't have to be, anybody could say, I move.
Usually what happens is Bert would say, okay, since we're picking the numbers out, Article 20, okay. And person who has Article 20 gets up to the mic and does the motion.
They make a motion.
The problem with doing that is that they screw it up.
Well, yes, which is why, as much as we actually give them the handout.
Yes.
It says, here's the
Yes,
motion.
there is, and that's,
But
read this.
They stop, they skip a paragraph.
But this is a lot less talking. It's a little bit more work for Bert, but
so
he's
one of,
new, we can mold them into.
the idea of the other screen too is to put the motion that's already printed up on the screen so people
Yeah.
can see what the person's reading.
So-
And hopefully they read what's on the screen.
Because it's one thing in the special town meeting when we have 19 articles, but when we're talking the annual town meeting, when we have 33 articles, to supply the audience with all of those motions can be a lot,
Right.
right? So that's why we're talking about the screen.
But let me just emphasize the nightmare that you give a lawyer when there's a 20-page motion and the guy only reads the first 4 lines and forgets to read the rest, sits down.
Well, again, if it's a 20-page motion, again, move as
Print
closely
this.
to the board or
Or
move
print
as.
it on the page,
But,
and
but
it's also a nightmare for the town clerk, believe me.
it's not about the length of the article, it's about the fact that the people who get up to the microphone are nervous and they make mistakes and the motions are legally effective. Every word is important. And so if they screw it up, the legal issue is what's binding? The stuff that was on the screen that was never actually moved? Or what the guy actually said that left out the critical word? That's a nightmare. That's why I much prefer motions that say, I move what's printed in the motions or as shown on the screen, then we know that we have it right.
Okay.
Rather than somebody.
Rather than taking the chance of somebody reading it incorrectly.
Yes, that's what I'm
Or
saying.
inadvertently or missing stuff.
I actually think that happened last town meeting and you had to correct somebody.
Yeah, I had to correct someone on funding source and funding amount. My one fear about having the screen and us saying, I move the article as printed
Presented.
on the screen is for the people who are,
I can't see.
I can't see the screen. I
Which
can't
it should
read
be,
that.
whatever,
That's printed.
Charlie's making the motions in a Word file. All we have to do is export them to a
Well, it's just simple.
PowerPoint or just put each one on a separate page in Word and hook it up to the projector.
Yeah.
Right, no, I'm talking about the audience who complains they can't read the screen.
Well, they're gonna have paper too, right? We're gonna print it.
Yeah, just, if you just say what's printed
As
on the
printed.
page,
So
then we're
we
covered
have to
even if it is up on the
make
screen.
motions available.
We're all working, yeah, then everybody's got the paper in front of them.
We'll get it done.
So every time there's a change, he has,
I'll be here this week.
so every time there's a change, he has to make enough for everybody. every time there's a change to what.
Is it a change in the number or something?
Right, or if.
Well, he hasn't printed the stuff for Wednesday yet. So we're just talking about changing the way the motions are read.
Right, so if it's, okay, I see what you're saying.
So instead of him printing it this way, it's going to say, I move
Yeah.
to,
Take over.
or I motion to move Article 18 as printed. And then we'll put it up on the screen and they'll have it in front of them.
It's printed in the town administrator's proposed motions or something like that. For the finance committee.
People think I just do too much as it is. Now,
Rather than saying the town administrators, we can
In
just.
Charlie's fancy journal.
For the finance committee.
No, it's, yeah, but just the motions.
Yes,
Thank you.
proposed
Or
motion.
for the motions, yes.
So Paul, will you work with Charlie on how to write that
Yes, I also
for him?
recommend that numbers be written out in motions.
Okay.
So you,
Not a dollar.
you have to like 26,600 and so on. I can't tell you how many times somebody transposes numbers.
And that's happened.
Yeah.
That's happened.
And then again, you have a nightmare. I don't know how you resolve it, but let's say it was supposed to be
We're short
$26,000.
$5 because they did it. It's happened.
That's easy enough to do with a,
Yeah.
Could I ask you a question about the screen? So Article 17 is 2 pages long. How big are these screens? Is it
so it
How
shouldn't
big
be
should
2
you get
pages.
it?
So,
It shouldn't be 2 pages long because it's,
Or
it's an
they
or.
haven't put the, they haven't picked the right version yet, so it's not gonna be 2
and
pages.
it's only the motion, the article itself won't be able to.
I'm sorry, all right.
Say the motion.
But we like the biggest
So that
screen that you
helps.
can get.
So then that one we'll move forward with after the planning board decision.
Right.
Article 18.
Article
If
18
this
is
is
passed.
Well, because I mean, the thing, I
Passover.
can imagine, the thing is, I'm not. I don't
18's
know.
a Passover?
Yeah, they could decide not to
They
make
don't
a
make a
decision.
recommendation yet, and there's the other possibility that for whatever reason, they want to do something, and Colonel Booth and people sign the petition want to do something else.
Okay.
So I hope that that it would be nice, but we'll prepare for the worst.
So 18's Passover,
Yes,
19. Move. So are we doing raise and appropriate on this one, or are you doing other
Yeah.
you
transfer?
know,
I have 2 articles that have enough money in them that I can, and it is going to stay at 12,000.
Okay.
Ashley,
Mm-hmm.
are you going to be able to do this one?
There you go. I heard her name.
I will do it.
Because
Sue, I wrote her in,
the
just
reason why
like.
I ask is as a member of the traffic study
Yep.
committee, and Steve is not going to be available.
he's on vacation next week.
Of course he is, yes.
So there's 2 down from
I
the
think
poll.
he would have
Talk to
talked
Janice.
From what we understand,
You can do
this
phone.
amount is for the replacement of the 2 school signs.
Yep.
That's most of the money is going for that.
Right.
And there's going to be a little residual based on the prices we've got, because Steve, we have to pay for the bases, and B, is he got the numbers 5 months ago, and given construction and everything else, it
Yeah.
could easily be more.
Does he have all that information that he's
Yes,
gonna give
he's
to
got all
us?
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Got that
No,
one.
he's giving
I
me.
don't wanna go into this blind, so I'll try to talk to
I
Steve
got
before.
photographs with circles and arrows on the back.
So
If we
Bert-
miss quorum by 2, I'm gonna call Steve.
Good idea.
Are you comfortable with the logistics?
Yeah, so far so good. The only other thing that I had, even thought about was the green and the red cards, as far as, everything that I've read, voice vote, and we using the green and the red cards, which I think is great. And, it takes all the mystery out of it. But I didn't know legally wise how we, as far as compliance with Mass General Law, if are we still good with the green and the red? And then if somebody or 7 people rather want to question the vote, then still the green card and the red card I think works great.
Yeah.
It's so to send somebody through, it's easy to be standing up there and say, oh yeah, I got a majority, no problem. The majority of green and red. But everything I've ever read, you know, says voice vote. But
So,
COVID has brought us this,
right,
you know,
under COVID standards, most moderators won't allow any voice votes anymore. The reason why they don't want voice votes is because it has people yelling, and as part of the yelling process, that sends the wrong message. It sends germs. So instead, everybody has pretty much gone to the voting cards. And it's easier for you as a moderator when you're looking out.
100%.
If you see a sea of red cards, and then you see one green card, it's pretty easy
Right.
for you. Whereas if you hear people yelling, sometimes people who aren't supposed to vote, the visiting section, maybe they start yelling too.
Yep.
And you're trying to judge all that stuff. And it's just a question, who's got the bigger lungs and
Yeah.
who's louder? Because there's a lot of people, particularly senior citizens, who are actually pretty quiet. And when they vote yes, unless you're within 10 feet of them, you can't even hear what they're voting. So the cards are a fairer way, it's an easier way, and it's protective of people's health better.
Does it eliminate the ballot vote?
No, if somebody
No.
asks for a ballot question, or you decide that a ballot question is appropriate as the best way to deal with things, you go forward with a ballot question. The reason why people use ballot questions is what's called the intimidation factor. Like, the fire department wants a new truck, and then you see the fire department there with pads of paper trying to see who voted and who didn't vote, with the implication that if you don't vote for this fire truck, your house is going to burn down. And so to protect that sort of stuff, I mean, you laugh, but it happens. To protect that sort of stuff, if you feel like a ballot is necessary, that protects the voters from retaliation.
And what does it take for someone in the audience to request it be done by ballot? Does it have to be like moved and seconded and voted on? Can someone, if someone just raises their hand and says, I want it passed
So you
by
have
ballot?
a bylaw on that. I've been in the process of reading the entire bylaw book like it was a novel. But I remember reading what your bylaw says, but I don't remember what it said.
I think it's 7.
7 people have to agree.
Or the moderator.
Yeah.
So one question I had for our new town clerk,
Yes, sir.
have you started looking into the electronic voting devices?
I mean, I looked into it years ago, and, you know, we looked into maybe sharing it even, like with another town, but I don't remember what the cost was. I can look into it if you want me to.
I think if we're gonna talk about logistics, we're making changes. I think even holding up the cards, you get some sort of intimidation factor for some items. So if we had electronic devices, it would make it really easy for Bert to have a screen that says 52 yes, 47 no.
Yeah.
You know what that does do, though?
Renting and purchasing?
The downfall with that is the minute somebody realizes we don't have a quorum because it's up on the screen, they're gonna call it.
I just think if we're gonna talk, I was gonna ask Paul how many communities you work with that use electronic.
So the community where I'm a select board member has this, we went to, it is fabulous, absolutely fabulous. The advantage of it is so fast. So you have a complicated article, let's say you have a zoning article, and somebody moves to amend the zoning article, we're able to vote in seconds. And we're able to move things along very quickly, and there's no guesswork on your part because there's a screen there, and it literally tells you what the numbers are. You know where you are in things. It's very effective. It also protects the voters from retaliation because nobody knows who's voting for what?
Except if they're right next door to each other.
But if we're 3 feet apart, with masks on,
There'll be a day where we don't do that.
No,
well, maybe.
But people put their stuff down low, and they have their hand sort of cupped over it, and they're voting.
They cover it
You
with their
can't really,
papers.
you can't really tell.
And even with the ballots that we do now, there's no way that Sue can tell if I went through the line twice.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
You know, if I only.
It is. There's those registrars, they check.
Barbara was pretty good.
Yeah, she would not let me go through twice. And I remember one time, there was this little old lady, she went up and she brought her thing, she stood in line, brought her little tab, ripped it in half, and went back to her seat and never voted. And she was like, what do I do now? I said, there's nothing you can do, you gotta go through the line again. So yeah, I can see that.
I was just bringing it up because if we're gonna look at logistical issues, COVID issues moving forward, if you had some sort of idea on that moving forward, it would.
That's a call with the, I think someone could be intimidated depending on the article.
Yeah.
If the majority of the town meeting requests a vote by ballot on any question, or if in the opinion of the moderator, there is sufficient cause for a written vote. So it's the majority.
So it is the majority.
Well, whatever Bert says.
So once upon a time, my fire department wanted to buy a truck and I didn't support it and I was voted local against it. So then 3 days later, I had this fireman going down my driveway with a measuring thing. And he says, yes, your house is too far from the street. We can't provide you with fire protection. And we'll be calling your insurance company to tell them that you're without fire protection. So I supported the fire truck. But that sort of stuff happens.
Let me just check the agenda.
It's just so expensive, really. That's the only issue is how much it's gonna cost.
Right.
But if it sped the meeting along
Right.
and
be
move
worth
things,
every penny.
no, it would be because if we're getting out of there at 10:30 versus 11:15,
Well, I
it's
think
worth it.
Well, and more people are gonna come and,
that's the whole issue.
that's the
People
point.
don't wanna come because our
Yeah,
meetings
because
are
they know they're gonna be there.
They're like, oh, you know what, I'll just come to the third night, I bet you they won't get to those articles, and they're already planning ahead for us not to have quorum. And there's a lot of young
Well,
parents
except
in
that-
town that can't do
Well,
that.
except that we have the random, so they
Yeah.
know it's gonna be on third night.
So I was gonna bring that up. Paul, so we passed the bylaw 10 years ago?
Maybe something like that. Maybe a little less than that.
It was less than that.
Was it?
It was a while.
That we pull basically bingo numbers associated with our articles out instead of going. So we do, at the annual, we'll do 1 through 4 first, and then it's by bingo number.
We should get Susan like a cute little bingo thing.
So,
Good visual effect,
Yeah, that's what they do in Canton. They have this little machine.
right? Could you imagine it would be
Cranks
so?
it, everything.
I
goes
showed
on.
her.
Can you,
That was on Wednesday bingo night.
Oh, okay, we'll talk about that later.
That's a policy issue. There's some good things about it and there's some things that aren't good with it.
all right.
Nothing else on
Anyone
the
have
agenda?
anything else?
So I'm going to be here tomorrow, I will be here Friday, I will not be here Tuesday or Wednesday until, maybe from 6 o'clock on Wednesday.
Okay.
I will be coming in during the weekend at some point, so that's my availability.
Okay, motion to adjourn then.
Second.
So
Okay,
before
but,
you adjourn,
Oh, just kidding, we're not adjourning.
before you adjourn, you should pick a rain date. In other words, if you don't have a quorum.
Charlie said the Monday after.
The Monday after.
Does
Yeah,
that
so-
work for you and for you?
Monday what?
The 13th,
13th.
If we don't get a quorum on Wednesday, the 8th, Monday the 13th. Does that work? Does it work for you?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
We'll spend another.
And then Steve will be back and he can do his article.
There you go. He can bring that.
Okay.
We'll see you later.
Okay, so I already motioned to adjourn.
So hold on. So in the case that we don't get a quorum, Scott, will you, or who's coordinating with the video, audio?
I can tell. I'll do that now.
Okay. Just to make sure that they're available too.
Well, one of my towns, there's a Carl Fire Department that wants to have residents in the town, so if they don't get a quorum, somebody pulls the fire alarm. You get a fire guy,
See, that only makes sense. Get them all up.
you get the all fire guys come in.
We've done things like, had town meeting, there was a gym class, aerobics class or something going on in the gym. And we had everybody in the gym come over, register, so that we now had quorum, then they went back to the class and no one was questioning. That's the big thing, is once we're there is whether people will question.
Anybody can raise the hand.
Challenge the quorum, yeah. And I've seen moderators not see them. We're on the
That could be fun.
Or pretty actually possible.
The hard part is not hearing some of these people. You can try not to see them.
Selectmen,
You're gonna hear
yeah.
them. You're gonna hear them.
Sue, you're available on the 13th too? Just making sure, because I didn't ask you directly.
Yes, I am. I am.
You asked me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, you'll be there. I have to be there, you're gonna be there. All right, all in favor, aye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.